All right, Jack Kinsey. We have Jack, right? He's been at the Congaree today for much of the day. Kinsey, bring us up to date. I know that live wire was down, wire pole earlier. Have they removed that?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, about 2.5 hours ago, they took that wire, those wires plus the utility pole out of the middle of the breach. You might be able to hear overhead here. We've had a number of helicopter flybys over the last 45 minutes or so. It's been a rather popular site for choppers to be over this area. And what they're looking at is obviously the breach back there, which at last report was estimated about 60 feet or so. It's probably more than that because as we've been here all afternoon, we've been watching little chunks of the canal wall continue to crumble into the water. They're sometimes fairly sizable chunks. And it is growing slowly wider and wider. So the reason that the helicopters are here, and one in particular, we are told, and this is not coming from an official source at this point, this is coming from what we've been able to learn from people who are in positions to know here, is that one of those military helicopters has been flying over here and doing a bit of reconnaissance to look at this area, because the plan, as we are told by our source, is that the National Guard has brought in probably by now about 4 or 5 dozen large sandbags, and they've dropped them in the parking lot here at the end of the State Museum. The plan, we are told, is that they've been looking by helicopter to see where all of these power lines are here that run alongside the canal and actually traverse the canal this way. There are a lot of them around here, and it's very tricky for anybody that might be doing some aerial drops, and that's what we're told is going to happen here. The plan is that we're told is that the National Guard is going to be bringing in 3 barges. They're going to be airlifting them in here and then dropping them into the water. They got to figure out how to do that without interfering with the power lines, because as any helicopter pilot, anybody who's flown in a helicopter will tell you, power lines are a huge hazard and you got to be very careful around them. You've got to have a lot of clearance. But they're going to drop some barges into the water here to essentially slow the flow of the canal down. And then with those big sandbags, and they're going to need a lot more of them than they've got right now. They've got maybe 4 dozen, maybe 5 dozen of them that have been brought in here right now. They're going to take those sandbags and use those to plug up the gap there. Oh, there goes a big chunk right there. A big chunk of the canal wall just dropped into the water, and that's been happening kind of periodically as we've been standing here. I'm not sure what those objects are that are attached to it right now. They look like a couple of tanks of some sort, but those 2 white objects just went into the water here, and that's what's been happening here. There's constant flow of water that's eroding away the canal wall and continuing to force more of that sediment down into the water as the water flows out towards the Congaree. But they're going to drop these barges in here, slow the flow of the water down so that they can put as many as 500 of these very large sandbags down into that gap to plug in that hole. They need to do that, of course, because the canal cannot sit this low in level. It has dropped significantly over the past 12 or 14 hours ever since it was breached overnight. And this canal has to be up at a certain level in order for the water pressure to be adequate at the intake point for the Columbia municipal water system. So that's the task right now. They're obviously not at the point where they're going to be dropping those barges in yet. We're told that they're still trying to figure that out right now. But as soon as they get all of those sandbags amassed up here on the parking lot near the State Museum, and when they can bring those barges in here and drop them through the power lines, away from the power lines so that there's no problem there, they're going to try to slow the water flow down here and then use that slower water as an advantage so that they can get sandbags in to plug up the gap in the Columbia Canal wall right now. When they're going to be doing that, not clear yet. It's obviously getting darker by the moment, and we will probably have to wait and see exactly what their timetable is. That may not happen until tomorrow. We're not sure exactly where the barges are coming from. We are told that the sand is being brought up from Fish Hatchery Road that they're just bagging it down there and putting them on trucks, these big military transport trucks, flatbeds, and bringing them in here and collecting them right now in the parking lot near the State Museum. We're going to keep an eye on that, and we will report back to you the latest developments. We are now live at the Columbia Canal, which is almost exactly the same as the Congaree because so much of it is intertwined right now. Jack Kinsey, WIS News 10.
Kinsey, thanks so much. That was some great information. Appreciate it. We will check back in with you later.